So thank you very much to Daniele for the invitation and to Alessandro actually for the providing excellent support. How can pension system deal with inequality in life expectancy is an important but difficult question. As Ole said, I mean, there will be some overlap and certainly consistent view. So the issue clearly is gaining traction in the public debate, and the starting point is first that inequalities in life expectancy are large in all OECD countries, and second, that the question of how to share longevity risks across the total population raises serious and intricate issue for pension policies, because they generate a conflict between two key objectives of pension system: the pooling of longevity risks across the overall population as largely as possible on the one hand, and the limitations of the impact of inequality, the so-called equity objective, on the other hand. So the multiple and interrelated determinants of these inequalities and the serious difficulty in identifying causality blur the design of adequate policy responses. That is one serious limitation, but this is not the only one. One crucial aspect I will focus on is the following. While the issues this topic raises are very serious, they are often approached in a confusing way. And I have tried that in several conferences, not as prestigious as this one, for sure. And as well, I've tried that every year with my students over the years to bring some clarity in this debate. And I think it is fair to say that I have partly succeeded only, or partly failed. But I don't give up, and I will try again with you, if needed, in a few minutes. So I will discuss the extent to which accounting for inequality in life expectancy affects the pension policy response to population aging in particular. Maybe I moved a bit too fast, sorry. Yes, the pension policy response to population aging in particular. One standard recommendation which is supported by the OECD, is to link the retirement age with life expectancy, although, of course, the pace of this link is another issue which is beyond the scope of this presentation, from, say, going in a relatively smooth way in the Netherlands now, in Sweden, very fast, for example, in Italy. But again, I will not discuss that today. We have today in Europe, this link is in place in 9 countries, and Norway is expected to join that group. And there has been actually last week or 2 weeks ago a recommendation to do that as well in Germany, but it's still very far away from decision. So I will ask whether accounting for inequality in life expectancy requires qualifying this standard recommendation, and I will show that it is crucial to distinguish the static from the dynamic analysis. So this may sound cryptic at this stage, but it will hopefully be clearer in a few minutes. So first, a chart to illustrate how serious the issue is. So there are many country-specific studies documenting differences in life expectancy across occupations, income levels, education. We have had very good already analysis reported in this conference yesterday on Denmark and Sweden. So that was very stark results. So the evidence, no doubt, is robust. Socioeconomic differences are large. And here, just an illustration, we tried in 2017 to have a cross-country picture based on a harmonized methodology. There are substantial differences across countries, but a reasonable order of magnitude at age 65 is that differences in life expectancy between low and high educated groups are around 3 years. So of course it's much less than what we saw yesterday with Denmark and Sweden going more granular, but low and high educated orders of magnitude again, 3 years. So if you have I like very simple orders of magnitude. If you have in mind remaining life years of 20 years, 3 years out of 20, that's about 15%, right? So this 15%, I'll get back to this in a few of these simple illustrations. So what we documented in this 2017 publication called Preventing Aging Unequally is that the factors explaining these socioeconomic differences are numerous, and that quantifying the impact of causal factor is not easy. So in short, there is uncertainty about the exact numbers as often, and more importantly about causality, but the facts are clear that socioeconomic inequality are large. So let's now start with the static effect, which is generally well understood. In essence, pension systems redistribute from those who die early to those who live long. This is the insurance mechanism against longevity risks, which protect against the uncertainty of your own death, basically. So this general principle about pooling longevity risks works well to protect against uncertainty when everyone faces the same risks. But the socioeconomic pattern we just discussed breaks this logic and adds to the effect on income inequality. So in that case, this inequality in life expectancy, if ignored by pension system, leads to regressivity as individuals with disadvantaged backgrounds, say let's call them low-income pensioners, finance the pension of those with advantaged backgrounds, high-income pensioners. This is the static view. Having the same retirement ages for all generates all else equal, as we say, but this is very important, and I'll get back to that, all else equal, a regressive effect. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm still keeping. So, but based on some estimates, by the way, differences in life expectancy would reduce redistribution in the French pension system by 1/3. So still keeping the overall system progressive, but 1/3 is reduced. However, in the United States, for example, estimates I've seen is that redistribution was estimated to be fully offset when accounting for socioeconomic pattern of mortality rates. So it's important to take into account all these things. So let's provide an order of magnitude again of the implied problem. So assume life expectancy at age 25 is equal to 70 years for the low-income group and 20 years for the high-income group. The static life expectancy effect is 15%, right? 3 years out of 20. And this is detrimental to the low-income group on top of their lower monthly pensions. Of course, this is a simplification. The real numbers depends on indexation rules in particular. And actually, any schedule that would front-load pension payment during retirement lower this regressive effect. This goes back to the discussion between Martin and Ole that we had a few minutes ago. But of course, at the cost, if we front load, it's at the cost of providing less insurance against longevity risks. If you go to the extreme, you just give lump sum of pension entitlements at retirement age, you have no regressive effect. But then you cannot manage the longevity risks. So two implications follow. Implication one is that a system that seems neutral, that is linking closely monthly pension benefits with past contribution, think of a pure DC system, whether funded or notional, is in fact regressive because of this. Implication two is that a common retirement age for all may ignore this problem. And I say may again, I'll come back. So how to deal with it? First is that this regressive effect is of inequality in life expectancy on the distribution of pension is well established, but the policy response is complex. And as Ole also said, the gender dimension adds further serious complication. The logical answer would be to ensure that disadvantaged groups with low life expectancy can retire earlier, right? Ideally, we would like to differentiate retirement ages across some characteristics that correspond to the causes, characteristics that are exogenous and do not have bad incentives in terms of behaviors, such as those related to individual health risks. For example, we know smoking negatively affects life expectancy and may be correlated to socioeconomic factors. But it would be weird to allow smokers to retire earlier just because they smoke, right? We also typically want to encourage high education because a highly educated population benefits the overall society, but it may be weird to reduce returns on education by allowing low-educated people to retire earlier. Easy group to target are genders, but this complicates the issue even further because women face low earning, they have low pensions, but they have longer life expectancy. And sometimes for good reasons, due, for example, to healthier lifestyle, although we know this is less the case nowadays, right? They start to smoke and drink. And so, in fact, when accounting for the gender dimension, it is not even obvious that differences in life expectancy across groups generate overall a regressive effect. Because again, a big share of the population, women, have low earnings, low pension, but they receive benefits for longer periods. Moreover, from a different angle, some schemes are meant to deal with health risks, such as disability pensions, or at least they are supposed to do so, such as pension schemes covering hazardous and arduous work. Actually, it may be argued that health policies and disability pensions are the best instruments to deal with health risks that are extreme enough to shorten life expectancy, not pension policies. Also, in the past, we have seen that specific retirement age rules applying to some sectors or occupations that are supposed to face tougher working conditions have typically been poorly targeted. It's also the case, like in some countries, there are specific rules for workers who started earlier, low income, low educated, they start their career early. If they have long careers, they can retire earlier without penalty. But it has been shown that these schemes are also mistargeting people with low life expectancy because if they have the selection effect, if they've been able to have these long careers, full careers, they are in good health, actually, and with relatively long life expectancy. So we may still want to reward them, but not because lower life expectancy. So, yes, in any case, yes, sorry, excuse me, I'm getting lost here. Yeah. So these deep difficulties to differentiate retirement ages, that's the big message, they strengthen the case for redistributive pension instruments, such as flat rate benefits, other measures generating basically higher replacement rate for low-income workers. And in any case, a progressive pension formula can be combined with flexible retirement age. And what I mean by that is the possibility to retire a few years earlier, so before the statutory retirement age, with, for example, some actuarial adjustment. And this can generate, for instance, the possibility for low-income workers to retire a few years earlier, but with similar replacement rates. So I take this example. Assume replacement rate to workers with low income is 70%, while it is 60%, say, for average wage workers. It's a progressive benefit formula. So you have basically a 10 percentage point, that's about 15% difference. But you also allow people to retire 3 years earlier with some penalty. So for example, the low-income group can retire now instead of 70%, they can retire at 60% of replacement rate, but 3 years earlier. So they will have the same replacement rate as average wage worker at the statutory retirement age, but they can retire earlier. That's one mechanism that can help to address this issue. So I will now show that accounting for socioeconomic differences in life expectancy in the design of the policy response gains raises actually a very different question than this. So first, increasing the retirement age penalizes. So imagine you have a reform, you decide to increase the retirement age. It penalizes more individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds because this increase, think of 1 year, represents a higher share of their remaining life expectancy, right? So there is an additional regressive effect, but it is mild. Again, illustration, you have 17-20, the example before, you increase the retirement age by 1 year, so the remaining life expectancy moves to 16 for low educated and to 19 for high educated. And this regressive effect, which was 15%, moves to 15.8%. So yes, additional regressive effect, but it's fairly small. But let's now, and this is the key, move from the static to the dynamic view. We need to put the call for raising the retirement age in its general context. The general context is dynamic. It's typically one which is meant to respond to longevity increases. What happens first is there is a life expectancy gain. So in that case, again, the life expectancy gains means it is progressive because it means that instead of 17 and 20, due to gains, we are moving to 18 for low educated and 21 for high educated. And the regressive effect, in fact, moves from 15% to 14.3%. The same logic, this 1 year gain in life expectancy, if broadly shared, and we'll get back to that, is progressive. And it's now, when moving to basically to link the retirement age, so increasing the retirement age after the longevity gains to accompany these gains, we move back to 15%, right? So it's not regressive anymore. Raising the retirement age to accompany longevity gains is neutral in that sense. This means that the call to differentiate retirement age may remain equally valid, not less, not more. What is key to deal with increases in longevity, the dynamic part, is how inequality in life expectancy changes over time. That's what is key. And the policy response to longevity gains may be questioned if inequality in life expectancy were to gradually increase. That would make it very difficult indeed to identify the retirement age response. And we are back then to evidence. We have extensively at the OECD reviewed evidence about changes in life expectancy. And I was quite impressed by the paper by Martin yesterday on Sweden, or because of the stock results. What we've seen is there has been a clear upward trend in life expectancy inequality in the United States, but the US is an outlier. In Europe, it depends on the measures, it depends on the study, it's not robust. Overall, Sweden, then we can read, we will add, of course, your study in our database. We have more than 80 studies. What is clear is, I looked briefly in your work since yesterday, and you focus on life expectancy at age 40, and we know many things happen during labor market age. When we stick to past 65, it's much less clear. For example, in the US, one reason of the outlier is the opioid crisis, which typically happens during the labor market age. So to finish, let's recap. Life expectancy inequality suggests that differentiating retirement age by socioeconomic groups may be a first best theoretical response, but there are serious practical difficulties, again, consistent with what Ole said. The second best is to turn to income redistributive instruments combined with some flexibility in the age of retiring. And guess what? Many countries actually have such a combination. whether or not to explicitly deal with inequality in life expectancy, but low earners have a higher replacement rate in most OECD countries than high earners. So you have the chart for a selected number of countries, and you see the OECD average, for example, for low earners. We have 66% of replacement rate. We have 42% for high earners. This is people with full career, so we have to be careful. But when we take career breaks, so we have some here extreme career breaks, people start 5 years earlier, and they break for 10 years, and that's the impact on their pension. So if you break for 15 years, that's about a third of your career that is gone. So you can see that in Germany, basically there is, in that case, very limited, there is no protection, but on the OECD, about 1/3 of the career break for this extreme case is taken into account. And you can see, if you distinguish the bar, which is average wage, and the dot, which is low earners, that the break is more amortized for low earners than for high earners. So there is this combination. So I'm told to stop, which I think I do here. So yes, most OECD countries also allow for early retirement with penalty a few years earlier. So we have this combination of redistributive instruments and some flexibility, which might help addressing this issue. So here you have the recap, but I don't need to go through this again. Thank you very much.